Oh, it's a feeling like that's impossible to describe. It was probably one of the most thrilling experiences I could ever say I've had. Like having thought of this story for years, and then shooting it on set, and then seeing it, and I imagine what it will be like showing it at the Egyptian on Sunday. I mean, it's really probably will be one of the best moments of my life. So I'm excited. It's surreal because at first you almost don't really believe it, and then it's you kind of it all happens so quickly that you don't really have time to. Now all the work begins. You have to think about all this stuff that has to happen quickly, and it's you get to think about it for a couple hours. Then it just now you have to do it. But it is a great moment to hear. It's sort of what when you start an independent film, the goal is to end up at Sundance for every film, and so we're so grateful and happy we're here.
I play Tom Dong. Real name Herbert Wong. This character actually came pretty easily to me. When I first got the audition, it was one of those scripts where I memorized it pretty quickly. The words just flowed, but it really connected with me because it's just about two guys chasing a dream. That's really what it is. And maybe the weird thing is that they're in porn, but I think a lot of people, at least I do, I can relate to chasing a dream and struggling. And once I read into it, it was absolutely fascinating. Honestly, I didn't think I was gonna get this. When I was talking to Lucas, we went to like a couple porn shoots, shot a couple. I helped out with the little scene, ran the camera a little bit, but I thought it was important to be there because Nathan and I, Nathan Stewart Jarrett, who plays Steve Driver, he and I went to a couple of these porn shoots, and I thought it was very important to be in that environment and see how they communicated and reacted in that scene.
So I got the audition and I read the screenplay and I loved it. I'm kind of the type of actor that likes to just dive in and jump into really weird, dark stories that aren't your everyday kind of story. And the character that I play, her name is Tampa, and she's a mess, but she's just trying to make the best of her life, and she's got a lot of hopes and dreams too, like to do a lot of things, and she kind of gets caught up in a really bad situation and deals with it. And I don't want to give too much away, but it was when I read it, I knew it was going to be a challenge, and as an actor, I'm looking for that. So it was really well written too. It was really easy to memorize, and it flowed. I agree with that completely. Lucas created that environment. It's very kind of intense stuff, and if the right set environment wasn't created, so Lucas created the environment to make it a safe place.
It's amazing to work with like a writer-director as confident as Lucas, because like I said, he knew what he wanted. He researched for 2 years. He'd been living with the story for years. For me, this is one of the rare things I actually did not have to audition for. Like I met with Lucas at a coffee shop, and I had read the script and fell in love with it, and I was a little familiar with the story, but I didn't know how detailed and like how in-depth Lucas went into it. And when we talked about it, and I saw his passion, and he had this kind of like perfect balance of darkness, but humor, but with respect and regard for the real people that went through like a pretty traumatic experience. I knew once we got to set that we could just trust him and put our performances in his hands. And it was a pretty cool experience, and we got to improv and try out some things, and we would talk like late night after shooting and just throw out other ideas or brainstorm, and he'd say yay or nay, and I would just trust his opinion. And but it was a collaboration. There was no ego. He took the ego out and was like, this is what I want. If you want to try something, great, and otherwise that doesn't work, and because I have the whole story in my mind. But he treated it with great respect. And I met I play a Chris Rochelle, who is a real guy and who was very generous. I met him at the porn shoot. We got to go, which also it puts it like in a real context. Like you kind of you hear about porn and porn shoots, and you can imagine and glorify or personify whatever you want on the world. But that was like a pretty real, gritty experience that I'll never forget. Also, I want to add that Lucas allowed us to
run through the entire scene. So he didn't call any cuts. Once it was action, I'm sure you guys agree with this. No matter what happened during the scene, he was like, we're going to run through the entire scene. I'm not going to cut you or anything. He let us get into character, and that made like a very safe environment for actors. Like we can just get into character as much as we prepared for.
To add to that really quick, but I come from a really theatrical background, and it felt like almost like at set you don't get this time, you just don't get it. It felt like almost like you were rehearsing like theater.
When you're telling a true story, you have a responsibility to capture at least the essence of what the story's about. And there's going to be little details you have to change, but especially with this story where 2 people are living and 2 people are dead, you have to respect the families, all the people who are alive. And I think it's only part of your job. Like you can choose not to, but I chose to actually gain their trust and get led into their world by kind of spending time with them and not just getting their life rights by like having dinners with them, helping them out. It's over a period of time I gained their trust, and I kind of realized that even though the movie is very, very accurate, it captures the essence of everything about them. Like when they'll watch it, they'll see stuff that's very eerily similar to what really happened. So it was very important to me that I captured, even if something had to be changed, it was at least in the spirit of what happened and the tone of that world. And you can only know it by just going there and seeing it.
I felt a responsibility to show how human he was. When I tell people about this movie and what my character name is, I say his name is Tom Dong, and people start laughing, and I'm like, well, it's actually not that funny. This is a guy who was chasing a dream, and my goal as an actor, I wanted to show how human he was, not just someone that people laugh at, and that was the main goal for me.
Chris Rochelle is a real guy who was very, very generous with his time and went through a pretty devastating, traumatic experience, but was open and honest about it. We'd have phone conversations, text conversations, and I just, it was awesome because like you can make up a backstory as an actor, but with him, like I knew his backstory, I knew what he had been through, what led him to that point, and what grounded him in that world. That like he was like a money guy who was doing like mortgages and like brokerage firms and all that, and he kind of brought that skill into porn. He was like a dollars and cents guy that was like, businesses are booming. Oh, please go ahead.
I love it.
This is Mope, bro. But his passion for doing good work in that field led to a very brutal, violent ending with a relationship with Steve Driver. But anyway, yeah, just to meet the real person is just incredibly valuable, and keeps you grounded. And he was awesome with his time.
What I think is great about what these actors brought to the project is they gave these people a dignity and a humanity beyond a punchline. Most of the headlines and punchlines about these people were mocking and comedic, and they gave them a sense of dignity. So I think that's the thing I'm most proud of with the film.